Let's cha-cha. Let's make a cha-cha bracelet. Hello, welcome. My name's Carol. Today I'm making a 4-strand bracelet with some cha-cha. And what I mean by that is I've got some little beads on some head pins and they are all kind of stuck together. I'll explain. Even though this bracelet looks really complex, it's actually really simple to make. There are no difficult techniques in here. As we go through, I will walk you step by step through the process of making this bracelet, and I'll also talk to you about everything you need. And there's a lot of supplies for this bracelet. So let's take a look and we'll get making. As I said, there's lots of supplies. Now, I'm not going to go through them individually. What I'm going to do is leave you a link in the description box, and it will be the top link to a blog post which contains everything you need, because this will take me ages. But basically what I've got here is some glass beads. These beads are all glass, except obviously the metal ones. I have got some bead caps, 3 different kinds, and I've got some little beaded rondelles. I have some magical crimp beads because I'm going to be using my magical crimping tool, but if you don't have a magical crimper, you could just use ordinary crimps and crimp covers. I have got some 4mm jump rings. These are 24 gauge ball pins and they are quite flimsy and flexible. As you can see, they're all bent, but that doesn't matter for this project. I also have some French wire. I've got this beautiful clasp, and this part folds over and it's magnetic. It's absolutely stunning, and it has a little sapphire in the middle there. As well as that, I've got some tiger tail. I've pre-cut my 4 lengths and I've cut them at about 30 centimeters, which is about 12 inches. You could cut them a little longer than that, just to give you a little bit of extra room. And as well as that, I've got 8 bead stoppers. Now, if you don't have bead stoppers, you can use a bead and you just feed your wire up through the bead, around and up through again. I think cha-chas are quite fun, and I've used them before on other things like rings and things, but today we're going to put them in the center of our bracelet. So I'm going to take a head pin or a ball pin, and the difference between a ball pin and a head pin is just the shape of the head. This one has a ball on it and a head pin has a flat head usually. Sometimes you can get different head pins which have beautiful, you know, fancy heads, but that's generally the case. All right, I'm going to put on one of my little beads here. These are 4mm beads, just like that. And I'm going to bend my wire. Now I'm going to take my flush cutters and I'm going to trim off to about just shy of a centimetre. Going to take my round nose pliers and I'm going to make a loop. Now, if you haven't done this before, I'll leave you a link in the description box to a video how to do that, and also a card up the top here, so you can go and watch that one after. There's my cha-cha. I know it doesn't look very much at the moment, but en masse they look really cool. Now I'm going to need 14 of the pink ones and I'm going to need 28 of these white ones. So I'll go ahead and make those. Okay, so here I have my 28 of my white and 14 of my pink. Next, we're going to start stringing our bracelet, and I'm going to start with the center strand. So I'm going to take a piece of my tiger tail and I'm going to put a bead stopper on one end. Now the idea here is to make all of your strands for your bracelet exactly the same length, so that when you wear it, it will sit nicely. And you can fudge it a little bit with some extra little rondelles or, you know, little beads. But we're going to string the main part and then we'll see how long it is and whether or not we need to add a little bit. So I'm going to start off with a little blue druck here. Actually, before I do that, I want a bead cap. Where are we? Flower bead cap first, and then a little blue druck, and then another flower bead cap. So there is my little glass druck. These ones are 6mm, they're check glass drucks, and it has a bead cap on either side. When you put your bead caps on, make sure they face the bead, so they kind of cup round the bead. Then I'm going to put on one of these beads, these metal beads, and like that. And then I'm going to put on one of these larger bead caps, and one of my pumpkin beads and another bead cap. So that is what I have now. Next, we're going with one of these rondelles and another of these larger bead caps. And I'm using one of these Millefiori glass tubes. Now, normally when you use a tube like this, you wouldn't put a bead cap on the end because it doesn't kind of work. Usually use a bead cap on a round bead, but I actually really like the way that looks. It's quite unusual, so I went with it. Now another rondelle, another bead cap, and this time we're going to put on one of these faceted rondelles and another bead cap. I'll show you in just a minute where we're going with it, and another rondelle. So that is what I have now. And what I'm going to do is leave you in the blog post a picture of this so that you can see how every strand is laid out. So that way it'll be easier to string everything up. Okay, now I'm going to put on one of my focals, and I'm going to use one of these very large bead caps for that, and one of these large glass beads. So these ones are 12 millimeters, and then I'm going to put on another large bead cap. And now we're going to get to the cha-cha-cha bit. So that's what I have now. And now what I want to do is put on all of these little cha-chas. Now when you make them, you do need to just double check that your loops are well closed so that they don't fall off. So we're just going to thread them all on. And what happens when you thread them all on is they kind of become like a cluster, and they will sit up and look very cool. Now I did just want to talk to you a little bit about making the loops for your cha-chas. I tried with my one-step looper initially, and I find that my one-step looper doesn't work so well on a thinner gauge wire. So I decided to do my loops by hand, and I think it worked better. It's a really good project for you to practice making loops because you don't actually see the loop. It's a finer gauge wire and it is easier. So if you're wanting to practice loops, this might be quite a good one for you. So that is what I have now. And as you can see, my cha-chas are all kind of pushed up against my bead and looking very cool. Now what I'm going to do is reverse all of this to the other end. So I'm starting off with my big blue bead. There's my first strand complete. Now I haven't decided yet. I think I might need to add a little 3mm ball on either end just to make it long enough, but I haven't decided yet, so we'll come back and think about that later. I'm just going to put a bead stopper on this end, and I'm going to put that one aside. All right, strand number 2 is a nice easy one, and this one is just one of my 3mm balls and one of my 6mm purple drucks, and I'm just going to repeat that till I'm done. If you're interested in making the jewelry I'm wearing today, I will leave you links in the description box below to my blue necklace, my memory wire bracelet, and also to my earrings. There's strand number 2, and if we put it beside strand number 1, we can see it's just slightly longer, so we will need to adjust strand number 1, but for now I'm going to leave it as is. Strand number 3 is one of our cha-cha main pieces, so we're going to start off with our tiger tail and our bead stopper, and then we're going to put on a beaded rondelle. Then we're going to use one of our flower bead caps and one of our 2 remaining violet beads and another bead cap. And then we're going with another beaded rondelle and one of these large rondelles and another beaded rondelle. Next, we're going to put on one of these larger bead caps, the middle-sized ones, and one of my blue faceted glass beads and another bead cap. Then another rondelle and another bead cap. So basically I'm going another bead cap and a pumpkin bead and another bead cap and a rondelle. Another bead cap, another of my blue faceted glass beads and another bead cap. That is what I have now. Now I'm going to put on half of my cha-chas. So I had 28, so I want to put 14 on here. And just like before, just threading them all on one after the other, and they will clump into a nice little cluster. There they are. Next, we're going to put on another one of these middle-sized bead caps, one of our large acrylic imitation gemstones, and another bead cap, and one of our rondelles. Then we're going to put on our main focal, the big one, so we'll put on a bigger bead cap, the largest one, the big 12mm bead, and the other bead cap. So that's what I have now. And then I'm just going to repeat all of this in reverse. There is strand number 3, this one here, and as you can see it looks pretty good with strand number 2 and strand number 1. We're going to basically repeat strand number 2 but with the blue ones. So just taking my tiger tail and my little silver beads here and my blue drucks. Starting with a silver and a druck and just alternating them until I have them all on. I want to thank everyone who has subscribed to the channel recently. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Hit that notification bell so you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video, and also give me a thumbs up if you like this one. That way YouTube will know that you want to see more of me. Now I've finished strand number 4, and as you can see it is exactly the same as strand number 2. Now I need to decide, should I alternate them or should I put the 2 main strands in the center? I don't know. What I do know is that I wanted to draw your attention to this. When I designed this bracelet, I wanted this happening. You can see I've got this V here, and I could have made this a 3-strand bracelet simply by repeating this and putting another one on that side, and that would look really cool too. But for this bracelet I wanted 4, and so I wanted those to tuck nicely in against each other. So that's why I put 1 on this one of the large beads, and 2 on this one. Now I think I actually like it like this. So that's how I'm going to attach it. Now you'll be wondering why I have some extra pieces here, and also why I said I needed some French wire, and I will get to that in a minute. Firstly, what we need to do is make sure that our strands are measuring the same length. So to do that, I'm just going to push up all the beads and measure them against each other. Now I can see that this one here is too short. Hopefully you can see that. If I put this bead with this bead, you can see there's about half of this bead missing. So what I want to do is bulk it out a bit, and that's where these bits come in. I'm going to push on one of my little tiny rondelles here and see what difference that makes. So obviously I need to put one still on the other end, but I need more than that. So I'll put on, let me see, I think I'll just put on one of these beads the 3mm. I need to shuffle everything down, I'm too close to the end here. So I need to repeat that on this end, obviously. So one of my little rondelles, and one of my little 3mm balls. So it's just about bulking it out, and it actually can become part of the design. Now when I look, they are pretty much, this one's just slightly longer, so should I take that off or should I leave it? I think it's close enough. It's like 2mm longer. I think it will sit okay. Now these two should be the same length because they're made with the same size beads, so that's good. So will this one be the same length as this one? And what's it looking like? It is it's a little bit shorter. So what I might do with that one is add just one of the 3mm balls, because it's not quite as much shorter as the other one was. So one on this end and one on this end. It's best practice to have them exactly the same length, but if they're not, multi-strand bracelets always sit, they move around anyway, so they don't always sit perfectly when you're wearing them because you move. So don't stress about this, it's just best practice. And if you can get it as close as you can, that's the main thing. Now we need to attach it to the clasp, and that's where the French wire comes in. Now if you haven't seen French wire before, it's like a very fine spring, and I've actually pulled some out here for you so that you can see. So normally it looks like this, and when you pull it out it looks like that. Now it won't go back, it's not like memory wire, so you need to be really careful with it. The reason I'm using it today is to cover up my tiger tail going through my jump ring. Now I could have used a wire guardian, so don't tell me that I should have used a wire guardian. Personally, I think this looks better for this particular bracelet. This looks better because it's beautiful and shiny and silver. So that's what I'm going to do. So what I need to do is cut about 1 centimetre, and I need to cut 8, and they all need to be the same length. So I'm going to cut them all at the same time. So there we go. There's one, and I'm just going to measure against the other. So the easiest way is actually to put it down on your mat and just snip it like that. All right, so there is my 8 pieces of my French wire that I've cut. Pop them over here, and I'll just take one. Now we're going to crimp these bracelets. So I'll start with 1 strand. I'm going to put the crimp tube on first. Just taking my bead stopper off and going fishing for my crimp tube. Then I'm going to put on my French wire. It is a little bit tricky to get it through there. And as I said, it's very delicate, so you just got to be very, very careful with it. There it is with its crimp tube on and its French wire, and you can hardly see the French wire. Make sure that you give yourself enough room at the other end to crimp as well. There's nothing worse than trying to crimp and put it through the loop and everything when you haven't got enough space. So next what I'm going to do is just thread my tiger tail back down through my crimp tube. And if I can go through a couple of beads. But these beads are have quite small holes, so I'm going to come up in there and just pull everything up. Now what you're aiming for is to have the loop of your French wire being the entire loop of where the tiger tail comes out and goes back down through the crimp bead. I hope that makes sense, but you can see there it's covering the entire piece of tiger tail. Then I'm going to take my magical crimper. I can push these beads out of the way while I do this because I haven't done the other end. And I'm going to squeeze it. If you don't know how to crimp, I will leave you a link in the description box below to a video all about 3 ways to crimp. I love this magical crimper. It makes the crimp look like a bead. There we go. Now I'm going to trim off the end of the short end of my tiger tail. Nice and close. And feed all the beads up. Now I think personally that looks really neat and it's very pretty. So that's why I did it that way. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other end. So first I'm going to put on my crimp tube. Then I'm going to put on my French wire. Then I'm going to take my tiger tail back down through the crimp tube. Now you can see I've got a space, so I need to pull everything down. And if you get to this point and nothing will move, what you do is pull your crimp tube all the way down. And this time I'm going to run my French wire down as well. So you're aiming here for your piece to have no gaps, but still be flexible because you don't want it to do it too tight. Otherwise it won't move when you wear it and it'll be really stiff. So just keep adjusting and pulling until you get it right. So that is what I have now, and then I'm going to crimp it the same way and cut off my tail. All right, so there is strand number 1 crimped. And obviously you could just make this into a bracelet if you wanted to. It could be a single strand bracelet with the cha-chas. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and crimp my other 3 strands. When you're feeding your tiger tail through your French wire, there's 2 possible reasons it won't go through. One is that your tiger tail might have a burr on it, so just snip the barest little tidge off the end. And the other one is that the French wire might have a little burr on it, so you could just snip a little bit off the end of that as well and then just thread it through. Now I have my 4 strands all crimped up with their beautiful French wire on the ends. I need to attach my clasp, and I also need to decide what order I am going to put my strands into. So at the moment I've got them laid out like this, and I've got my little triangle here in the middle of my 3 focals and also a triangle of my 3 cha-chas you'll see there. Now the question is, do I want my main focal pieces to be together, or do I want to accentuate them maybe by putting the smaller pieces in between? Let me know in the comment section what you would have done. So I need to make sure that I put them on the jump rings in exactly the right order so that they sit in the right order. So I'm going to take 2 pairs of pliers and I'm going to open a jump ring. And if you haven't used jump rings before, I will leave you a link in the description box below for a video on how to use them. And I want to put on my loop of my bracelet of both strands. Whoops. And now I want to put on the loop or the hole of my clasp, and I want to come in from the inside of my clasp. You can see the hole is there, and it's easier to go from the inside to the outside. Now I wanted them that way, so if I turn my clasp around, I want it to be that way. So you've got to figure out which way it goes. And now I want to close up my jump ring. So I'm just going to grab my other pair of pliers here and grab the jump ring. Now sometimes it's actually impossible to get your jump ring closed like that, so you can just give it a squeeze and then close it properly afterwards, just to get them kind of close together. That is what I have now. Now I need to repeat that for the other 2 strands and get them in the right order as well. So just taking another jump ring and opening it, and threading on my 2 strands. Now I want the lilac one to be in the center, so I need to make sure that that's how I put them on so that they will sit that way. So coming in from the inside, that should work, and just closing that up. I'm going to give it a squeeze first, and then I'm going to come in and close it properly with my 2 pairs of pliers. And that's what I have. Now don't worry too much about the order, because when you wear this, it will move around, and sometimes you'll find that you get your 2 main pieces in the middle, and that's okay. Now I just need to repeat that for the other end. The big thing here is not to get it twisted. So once again, taking a jump ring, and this one's already open. Is it open far enough? I think so. And I'm going to feed on that one there, and that one, and the outside of my clasp, or the right side of my clasp. Now if you used a 6mm jump ring instead of a 4, it would have been much easier to close these properly, but I wanted them to kind of disappear. So that is looking like it's right. Just lay it down, double check every single time. And now one more. There's my bracelet, and there is the clasp. Really, it's just a stringing exercise, so don't feel that it's complex and get intimidated by what's going on. The cha-chas are pretty easy to make, and as I said, good practice for you for making loops. This bracelet is actually quite a large bracelet. It measures about 21 to 21.5 centimeters, which is about 8.5 inches. So it's actually a gift, so it's too big for me. If you wanted to make it smaller, just take some of the beads off, but make sure that you take the same amount of beads off each end. So if you take 2 beads off one end, take 2 off the other, and just try and get your strands to be equal sizes. Remember that the top link in the description box is the one that will take you to the blog post, and that will give you links to everything that I use to make this bracelet. And also there's links to the jewelry that I'm wearing, and also a couple of useful techniques using jump rings and making loops and crimping. Also check us out on Facebook and Instagram. Remember to hit the subscribe button, and thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again soon.